Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Erica from Advanced Partners, and we are so happy to be the sponsor for today's webinar. Here at Advanced, we specialize in providing working capital to staffing firms nationwide. We have a very exciting webinar in store for you all today. Before we get to it, though, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. First, this webinar is being recorded, and a link of the recording will be sent to everybody via a post-event email. If you have a question for our speaker, please use the Ask a Question widget located in your console. A survey will launch at the conclusion of the event. We hope you will take a few moments to complete it. We appreciate any feedback you have as it will help us fine-tune these events for the future. And lastly, if you experience any technical issues, please use the Help widget also located in your console. It is shaped like a question mark. Now, I am pleased to introduce our speaker for today, John Phillips. John is the Vice President and General Manager at Findem. He has over 20 years of experience leading HR and talent teams, as well as building HR and talent acquisition products. John has held executive leadership roles at companies like Indeed, Amazon, Starbucks, and Microsoft, and is passionate about transforming how companies find and engage top-tier talent. His unique perspective as both a practitioner and product builder stems from his early career as an agency recruiter, as well as leadership experience managing some of the world's highest volume staffing solutions at Amazon. While he was there, he facilitated the hiring of millions across 28 countries, encompassing both full-time and temporary staffing solutions. John, thank you so much for being here with us today, and I pass the floor to you.
Great. Thanks, Erica. I am thrilled to be with you all and share a little bit about Findem and what we're doing in the marketplace right now and maybe how I could help you. So let me give you a little bit of an overview of Findem. So we're an early stage company. We are based out of the Silicon Valley. We are growing at a pretty rapid pace, and we have taken on a mission to take data and well-informed data to help people make decisions on people. And I'll walk you through a little bit about that. We are, like I said, we're a fast-growing company, but we're also being recognized as one of the most influential AI companies out there right now, winning multiple awards recently. And we were just recently named the fastest-growing AI company in the Silicon Valley, which is great for a company our size. But what it really indicates is that we're not only growing quickly, but we are innovating in an industry that really needs innovation in human capital. So what we know about the organizations that we're facing here, which is staffing teams are facing huge headwinds. It's been years and years that I've been in this industry, and the sourcing costs are just continuing to skyrocket. Around those costs is really because people's data is everywhere. It's starting to get, you have to go to multiple places. You tend to have to rediscover and re-find the same people over and over. And on top of that sourcing cost, it's extremely labor intensive. The labor cost for sourcing is growing at kind of exponential rates as in the staffing areas. You guys will know that it's just taking a lot of extra effort because data is everywhere. And while AI is a huge strategy and everybody's talking about it, most of the AI tools out there are actually just AI querying tools on top of really bad data. And what that does is it just creates a complete waste of time for people because you're getting false information. And so as we go through that, we know that the root cause of this is that talent data is broken. As we discussed, it's fragmented. There's versions of people everywhere. There's not a single place where you can find my digital profile. I have it all over the web. There's little bits and pieces and breadcrumbs that I leave everywhere. And when I'm not out updating a resume and updating it into a database, which most of people aren't, you lose track of those workers and it becomes completely unreliable to be able to find them. The other piece we know is that self-reported data, resumes are not a great reflection of who I am and what I've done. And what we've tried to do is solve that through utilizing unique ways to look at data and look at people. And then we actually layer our AI on top of this really clean and connected data. And we allow AI to do its job, which is an amazing tool for discovery. It's an amazing tool for efficiency, but it's only as good as the data you put it on, which is why most of the AI tools out there fail you. So the way that we've approached this problem is that at Findem, we talk a lot about what we call 3D data. And that's the data on people data, company data, and time data. And so I need to understand when I'm doing searches or I'm putting kind of people data in front of hiring managers or others, is not only what the person has reported on their resume or their profile that's out there, but I need to understand the context of when they did that. So the context comes into company data, where we can take lots and lots of company data and append it to your profile. And we can take time data and understand the concept of when you were at that company, what was happening at that company, and the time. And so as I get into a demo a little bit later, I'll talk to you about why that is important. But as we go back to the AI as a framing of this, AI is only as good as the data that it sits on. And what we've done here is we've taken a typically about a 4 kilobyte resume profile or web profile, and we've turned it into a 50 megabyte profile on each person. And so what that allows is there's so much more data to query. There's so much more pieces for the data to index against, that it creates a much higher match score, and it creates a much better outcome for the user on the other end. And so we look at a couple of things with our data. One is that we look at the career trajectories, we look at kind of verified credentials, and we look at contextual search attributes as I described the time. And when you do that, you can look for things that are more important than just say maybe a keyword that finds on a profile, but you can actually ask contextual things like, I'm looking for someone who's been on a team that's grown 2x, specific revenue things, because we have the company revenues pulled in. We can also say, I want to see someone who's seen this level of growth, maybe specific competitors and what's happened. All those dynamic things right now would have to be done via a keyword on a resume, and now they can be done through us inferring that by understanding where you were, the context of where you were and at the time. And so those are the things that make this really, really powerful. And what's important to notice when we talk about this data is it takes some of those really thin set profiles as well, some of the ones that you don't have a huge online presence, and it will actually make those more prevalent because I understand the concept of what you were doing, where you were doing it, and then others across the web that have done that. Our data comes from over 100,000 data sources. We have both public data sources, we have private data sources, and we also have proprietary partnerships that allow us to consolidate all this data into one place. So it's a really unique, distinct advantage in the way that you go out and you do search. And what that really does is it allows you to do that across all your channels. And so when I show you in the demo, I'll show you a little bit about how when you consolidate all those channels and those past employees and past applicants, things like that, the power of that, which is instead of going and finding people over and over again, that you can let the power of our data profiles actually update and refresh profiles that you've already paid for and already worked hard to find, and that we keep them up to date as they change across the web. So let's jump into the demo. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and just to reiterate, it would be great to have questions come in as we go. So then at the end, we will be able to kind of dive right into questions and get a little bit deeper in the tool. So let me first orient you to a profile. In this case, I'm taking a profile inside of Findem. In this case, it's our Vice President Sales, Parth. And what I'm going to orient you to is the type of structure of the data that's in here, so I can kind of give you a visual representation of that 3D data. So what you'll first understand is this looks a lot like a lot of other online profiles. You'll see a bio, you'll see work experience that's been consolidated across all of his profiles, and you'll see just a lot of keywords, not a lot of depth in the descriptors of it, but we know a lot about his background, where he's worked, the years he was working there, etc. What I'll do is I'll just come back into, this is the kind of about him. You'll also see that his profile is fresh and it's been updated in recent time, which is a really good indicator of the freshness of profile, that we've been able to update it. And then I'll jump into the company information. So what you'll see here in the company information is all of the different companies that he's worked at. but you'll see other things that you don't find across his resume or other areas, which is what was going on at that company. So you'll see here what his Findem experience. We'll see that he's in what industry subcategories in get appended to his profile for search. You look at the employee counts, different groups that are this is affiliated, and then you'll see the company size and the growth. As you go down into other experiences, the more the company information is public, the more we can append that company. But what you'll see with Parth is that he's seen a lot of scale at almost every company he's been at. He's worked in both B2B and B2C. He's seen revenue growth. He's been in the early stages when he was at LinkedIn. You can see that it was a really low but very, very fast moving company. What this does is it allows AI to query in different ways than any other resume profile. So the concept of our search, if I wanted to look for a sales leader that also had startup experience is a point in time reference. So we need to know that he was at LinkedIn at the startup phase, in the early phases as it was growing, and it was a private company at the time. The reason that's important is that LinkedIn now is no longer a startup company. And so that really is only that experience that he brings to the table is specific to that time and that orientation of what he was doing and what was going on at that company. So that's just a little bit about the profile and how we look at it. You'll see that we start putting in little AI at a glance things. If there was any activities, which I'll get into across the different profiles, we would see Parth and all the activities I have against Parth in the past. But I'll get into that in just a second. So let me go back and kind of now orient you to the kind of main entry point of Findem. So when you get into Findem, what you'll see is a set of, in this case, we're integrated with greenhouses and ATS, and you'll see a quick view of projects and a way to kick off searches. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and grab one of these searches. You can see all these different jobs are pulling in from my ATS. I can just, with a single click, I can create a project looking for a director of sales. And what the tool starts to doing is actually querying across all of the different data sources, across those hundreds of thousands of data channels, and it starts consolidating a search against the profiles that were in that job description. So the full job description is in there. It's parsing that job description and running a search across the entire data set. When the data set gets, when it comes back with a search against this data set, one of the things you'll see is, if you remember, Parth was, had a bunch of different information here. What it's now doing is taking those same queries that you'd see against this profile, and it's running it against that search. And so the search will go, right back into the profile, and it will, this is obviously a very big search we're running here. The profile will run, and it will, let me jump back into the projects. Excuse me. It will run, here we go. And so when we get into the search from the sales manager search, what it'll do is it'll bring up the profiles that came across that search, and it'll bring it up across all the different channels that we've been able to search against. So in this case, we'll be able to bring up the Copilot recommendations. So this is the recommendations of a profile. It shows the people that kind of came up against that profile, and I'll dive into one of their profiles again, and you'll start seeing how they matched against that specific role type. So the role types will give you a match detail. It'll give you an AI assistant to be able to quickly index against company experience. You can start asking it to write job descriptions or job specs to the manager around why this person meets the criteria, and all of that data that it's querying is able to do that against the profile that was just searched. What you'll see across the top is an ability to search across all the different channels. So in this case, we have inbound channels. So these would be applicants that have applied to the job actively and are new applicants. We have ATS candidates. So think about your database and all other candidates in that database that are previously recruited maybe for other roles. If you have internal employee databases or the CRM set up in our instance, you'll see that. And then we'll see external sourcing as well. In these external kind of candidates, one of the things that's really important when you're doing a search is to understand the context of what you're searching within, and kind of how do you look at those searches in the context of the competitive environment. And so one of the things I can quickly do is take a look at these searches, and I can look at them from different views. I can look at, say, an analytics view. And what I'm going to look at is, what are the different analytics views? What are the summaries of different backgrounds? I can look at a understanding of locations and where these people are at in the states. And in this case, we have a very specific search that we did. And so you'll be able to kind of log right down into where these people are at. So what I've done here is just quickly pivot against a couple areas. Why is this important? When you're sitting with a hiring manager or maybe selling a job in as a staffing company, understanding what you're up against in that search is really, really important. And so the analytics at a glance allows you to jump right in and query against those things. But if I go back to my projects and look at maybe one of my other projects that I've got, what I've got here is old projects that I've done in the past, and maybe the ability to look at those projects and then take activity and come back as more profiles come in. One of the things you see here in this example is a high reach forklift driver, and you'll see that I've got 50 candidates here, and I'm gonna go through and look at a couple of these, and maybe I wanna, I say, look, all 50 look great. This profile search looks great, but I know that this is a really high demand job as a forklift driver. And so I'm going to need to reach out to multiple candidates. What I can do is quickly take all 50 profiles and jump in and run campaigns. And so what I can do is assign a campaign that I've either pre-created, or I can create one on the fly. In this case, I'm going to create a 4-step campaign. And within just a couple of clicks, I'm able to search, or I'm able to message against all of those 50. And I'm going to create a outreach of 4 separate outreaches that are all customized and change, and they pull in custom attributes from that job description that I'm doing, and I run those outreaches out. What we know is on the 3rd and 4th outreach over a couple week period, response rates skyrocket, and you're really able to do this without a bunch of manual labor over and over trying to do campaigning in your system. So those are kind of the ways you can search upon with a job description, a way to come back and have an area where you're managing your candidates. And I'll show you a couple of other ways that you can search and index right into the profiles. So one is you can start using just natural language search. One of the things you can do with natural language and AI, as we've started to become accustomed to with things like ChatGPT, is just in natural language describe what you're looking for. So in this case, I'm going to say that I'm looking for a nurse in Seattle, Washington. And just with a single sentence, what we're able to do, because we understand the taxonomies and we understand what it is with all the different skills and backgrounds and the things that you need to be a nurse, what we will do is we will run that search based with basic form. We'll jump directly into the candidates, and we'll be able to quickly see registered nurses in the Seattle area and get into our search. What we have noticed about this, especially in some of the staffing instances where a lot of complex search takes a really high skilled recruiter. And in this case, you can offload some of that work into a lower cost recruiting labor to be able to run a more efficient pool and drive sourcing at a faster pace, because you don't have to be a expert in nursing, because we've kind of taken that on the back end and run that search. So what I can do here is I can look at these searches and then I can refine. One of the things that's really powerful about Findem is we can look at the companies or the backgrounds that we have. And let me just clear this. This is based on a text search that I've been running in the background. But what I can do is I can change the different job titles. I can add industries, I can add filters. And the more that I have and I add, the more I can adjust these filters and run the pool down and really refine it. And so instead of the times of doing lots and lots of keyword searches, I now kind of have a lot of things at a glance. Some of the things that are that our companies love the most is being able to do what we call Findem magics. These are things that no other search profile would be able to really do. And it may be looking at things like that. Maybe it's their academic performance. Have they graduated, patent holders, PhD completion times? But remember, I talked about different aspects of the company. We can also do against company valuations, what stage these companies are at, experiences. We can do different data science filters, financial services filters, different funding rounds, because we understand all that from the public data. So what this really does is it takes a tool that you can do at a glance, quick native searches, and then you can really dive in and refine for those real finicky roles and areas where you know that there's high specializations that's needed. So that's at a really high level, some of the things that Findem's able to do. If you look across this search that we ran for a nurse, we can also get right back in. This may be actually a better example to show. I'll go ahead and pull an insight report. And what I want to do is basically, if I'm selling to a manager, when I'm selling to a manager around this role, a lot of the things that complicate things downstream is the ability to describe what's going on in the marketplace and how do I react to that. So nursing is a good example. Is that there's a broad search and a long tenure. And so what we've done is we've created an at-a-glance insight report that you can take right along into those rec review processes. It takes the must-haves and nice-to-haves as I refined it, locations, and then it starts to put it into an analytical report that you can give to managers. In this case, what's the competitive environment? What are the top employers? As you'll see, Swedish and Children's Hospital, multi-care system. Where are these candidates coming from? What kind of the skills do they have? Maybe top schools that they've graduated from. And then you get into things like their overall matches by experience. One of the things that we see in recruitment, I'm sure you guys deal with every day, is that a lot of times it's not a compensation issue that comes up at the end, but it masks itself as a compensation. That someone wants to hire someone at a specific rate, but then when you put the requirements in, you actually see that really most of the candidates are highly tenured. And they may be putting a pay range around the lower end of the entry level. It's just a way that you can work with managers to go back into their criteria, change the criteria a bit, take a look at the data, and then use that as an informed way to update your searches and your ability to kind of close the gap on all those false kind of positives when you get downstream with managers where they reject candidates and it's based more on the criteria they're asking for is not available in the marketplace. So it's just an example of the power of the data. If I go back into the searches, one of the other things we had shown was the projects and then be able to do outreaches. One of the things that we've been able to do is set up dashboards. So when we set up dashboards for you and set up your recruiters into the system, we're able to give you an at-a-glance view of not only how the system's performing from outreaches, but also just give you an at-a-glance understanding of what's your candidate volumes, where are these candidates coming from, what hiring channels are actually giving you the results. And so because we're a BI platform, we're able to pull these things in and we're able to show them in a way that gives you just an at-a-glance thing. You can filter by specific usernames and teams. And what this does is gives you a little bit of a productivity understanding of how do I drive my business. Additionally, sourcing is always multidimensional. And so you're able to jump in and really understand what are the candidates coming from? What do my funnels look like? Again, with all the different filters, looking at real important metrics like how many people are in my funnels, what's my contact to interest rate, and kind of those days to reply. These are all things that help you manage your business better, and they're all built right into our tools. So I've shown a lot and I've gotten as fast as possible. I'd love to open it up for questions and figure out if there's things that are on your mind that we could answer for you as we go here.
If you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop those into the question widget at the bottom while John preps his next content. And John, I'll keep you posted if we have any that come in the time being.
Yeah, that's great. As you're thinking of, there's other things that you can that we can talk about in if there's specific searches or specific questions or types of things that you're looking for. we can do something live here and make it fun. No questions means I went too fast. We will give it just a minute.
That just came in, John. Does the tool conglomerate contact data? Cell phones are a high value, of course, but is there an integrated outreach methodology for texting or adding those numbers into our existing ATS?
Yeah, so if you have an ATS that we can write into, which we can follow up with a list of ATSs that are available, we can rewrite back into your ATS. One of the things that we have is we actually go out to thousands of places that contain contact data, and so we're always refreshing. In some cases, you'll actually find when we open up one of the Findem profiles, you'll see multiple emails that you'll be able to send out all at the same time, as well as phone numbers that we've collected across that person. And so what we do is we take all that data and put it into one specific profile. And then, so if someone is named in a profile area with a specific new phone number, we'll append it to that phone number for that profile as it goes, and we'll update it.
So one more came in. Can this work as an overlay or extension to ATS, or is it a replacement of ATS?
Well, we've used it in multiple places. We see it as when we're fully integrated, say in this case with Greenhouse, we're able to get into these, and the people that are using it on Greenhouse can use it as an overlay. They can actually update the status. So if it's if it's Lever, Greenhouse, Workday, some of these others that we have integration with, what we can do is we can actually go back in and we can look at those. And I actually went over it really quickly. When I get back into a profile, there's this ability to add to shortlist. But if I look at the candidates that are inbound applicants, we know that they're already in your ATS. And so we can actually send those and rewrite right into your ATS and move them from one status to the other. So you'll see a pop-up here where you can see I can just advance or reject directly in the ATS. So it is a huge time savings to not have to go across. You'll see that same thing in an ATS candidate that's not applied for that job. You'll be able to add them to a short list, basically add them to a job in the ATS. And then areas like external sourcing, you'll see that those tabs are a little bit different in the sense that since they're not in the ATS right now, you're going to want to message out to them and add them to a short list to message out to and invite them into that ATS. Hopefully that helps with that question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Looks like that's all the questions for now at the moment. And as they come in, I'll keep you posted. We can read some more off.
Yeah, maybe one of the things that I'll just kind of reiterate if we see if there's any other searches is some of the questions we get a lot is this just for white collar where there's lots of profiles out there? Because we have this large data set, we're able to span across both hourly as well as white collar profiles as well. And so we found that we have really good contact coverage across that around those areas.
John, we got a few more rolling in. If you don't mind, might as well just read these off. Is this a mixture of LinkedIn and traditional job boards?
It's actually any public data. So at the start, I said there was over 100,000 data sources. Some of those are private data sources where we have agreements to pull data in, and some of it's public data sources. So any of the public data sources will show up in here, and then we append and basically create a proprietary profile with the data sources from all these areas. So it's not necessarily inside of a job board. What we found is, and actually it's something that's really interesting to watch the trend of, is the exponential growth of where your data is at is no longer in a job board that becomes pretty stale, or it means I'm actively looking, which is a great thing. But if I'm actively looking, I'm normally updating things like public profiles and other things as well. Kind of so for the days of the job boards holding us a little bit hostage on what data they have because they're the only ones have it is just not a reality anymore, as people's profiles are kind of all over the place. And so we don't rely on job boards to pull these data. For contacts, there's well over 750 million profiles that have all of this appended data and contact information inside here.
Wow. Okay. Next question. Can this be leveraged into B2B sales?
Well, that's interesting. I don't know that we haven't built it for that use case, but I think searching, finding people, and messaging people is, I guess, just a use case that's similar to recruiting. So I don't know why it couldn't be utilized that way. It wasn't built to do that, but I guess every project, you could potentially set projects up and use the same keyword searches and all these other things will build you profiles and then be able to reach out to profiles in any way you want.
Okay. One more. If we already have a candidate, can we find relevant open jobs in the market for said candidate?
Can you read that one for me one more time?
Yeah. If we already have a candidate, can we find relevant open jobs in the market for said candidate?
Yeah, we have not indexed the jobs in this case. So we've indexed as a search platform, not a jobs platform. Yeah, so we could match if you have a job description, but we don't. It's not meant for finding job orders. It's meant to match those job orders against profiles. So what I would say, and I'll maybe go back to my experience, this is some time ago, so you guys will have to forgive me. But one of the things I always wanted to do in a business development call is walk in with even previous jobs that I've seen and matches to try to show like that I understand your business. So you can take old job descriptions you find, match it against that, and then walk into business development calls with really good matches and say, here's the types of profiles I could get to you, which tends to be the thing that drives the market anyway. I mean, you all know this, but you want to be the one getting the job that's not open yet. And so that can help because you can start running searches based on the things that you know about that company.
And then looks like this is the last one for now. Can we do any custom integrations, specifically CRM integrations with platforms like HubSpot?
We've explored that. It would be kind of on a case by case basis, if depending on kind of the size of the integration and what we're looking at. We do have some native CRM capabilities where we can kind of do campaigns and other things, but we've had some other clients that have done kind of one-time integrations, as it will, to where we'll take an integration and set it up that way. But we're always exploring more integrations. HubSpot is one that has come up a couple times, so I can look into that a little bit more if you're interested.
Fantastic. Those are all the questions for now. And for one more just popped in. 1 second, John. Did this tool, help finding new clients or job orders? We got some people rolling in as we're speaking, John, just so you're aware.
Yeah, so I think the tool is meant to find the people, not the, I guess you could utilize it as a proactive search to find hiring managers and clients because the profiles are dynamic. And so if you're looking for specific manager profiles, you're going to find the same thing. So I guess it's a really unique thing from a staffing organization to say that your candidate for selling a job to versus your candidate for placing can sometimes jump back and forth. And so this is a tool based on finding your next best candidate for your jobs that you're working on. But the data and the information in this tool is going to be dynamic enough for you to use it for any kind of people search that you have.
Fantastic. Okay, that was the last one for now.
Great. One of the dynamic things with staffing is that obviously that you're constantly in this high volume kind of perspective. There's a lot of different ways to search. So I had shown you, as we're waiting to see if there's any other questions that come in, as I had showed you the way to just kind of take an existing job profile and do it. I will tell you there's other things that can be really interesting around the way you search. You can look at lookalike profiles. So I can actually take profiles that I know have been successful for those companies in the past. So let's just say you're looking for a specific profile. I can so maybe as I showed earlier, Parth was one of the profiles that I looked at from Findem. I can take his profile and actually create a search against his profile. And then what it does is it actually takes, instead of taking the job description that was with all the keywords in the job description, it's actually taking his background uniquely that maybe has been super successful for us. And it's creating and constructing a search based on him as the kind of creation of those attributes. So what's really nice about this, especially with hiring managers, hiring managers will always have a superstar that they can say, I just need 5 more parts. And that's really hard to match normally because there's a lot that goes into what that is. And so in this case, that same job description search where I showed you created all these filters, they are now taking these filters and they're taking the job title, the background, all the industries that made Parth, all the other filters and things that they know he's done B2B and SaaS software sales and revenue generating and all the different experiences that make up his profile. And every single thing in his profile has now become a search criteria to match against. So this is a really, really important tool if you have a relationship with a hiring manager where you're trying to look at those things. For context, I could have added up to 3 profiles to combine. And as I added those profiles, I could search against that. The other piece that is, the other piece that's really important here is that when you do those lookalike profiles, it does give better indicators about kind of the person that's been successful in the job and why. I mentioned the job description. If you don't have an integrated ATS, you can easily just add a link to the job descriptions. You also cut and paste the entire job description. The lookalike profiles, you can do it just directly by titles as well, because we have such a robust taxonomy. You can just say, I'm looking for high lift forklift driver, type that in, and it knows enough of the context there to run the search. Not sure if that's helpful. If there's any other questions that come up based on that.
Not at the moment. No new ones. For those who are joining, who have to drop off early, we will send a follow-up email with John's contact information. So if you guys have specific questions about Findem related to your business, you can also reach out to him that way for a more specific call with him one-on-one.
Yeah, so maybe as we wrap up, unless there's more questions that pop in, when we created Findem, we knew that we wanted to take data and make it really a difference in how things are run. And so we showed you kind of multi-channel sourcing and how you do sourcing across multiple talent pools. There's a little bit of talent pool management and the projects and how you come back to those projects, continue to nurture, the ability to quickly campaign within seconds, showing market intelligence and analytics. And so what we've done is we've taken a significant data approach and layered all of our AI efficiency right on top of it. So it's a really, it's a tool that when our clients get in and we ramp them up and they start utilizing it, it drastically consolidates their spend on other sourcing channels. They all but eliminate expensive sourcing channels from outside because they have all the same profiles with actually better data in here. And then it drastically increases the time on task around being able to get efficiencies out of those outreaches, because we've created tools that allow them to quickly find in one tool, quickly outreach and get those messages out and get people into the next stage in the profile. And then the thing that is very unique to staffing is we've seen where our talent intelligence really helps win deals when it comes to being a recruiter that's, able to present a manager with an understanding of, here's what you asked us to search for. and or here's what we want to win in your business. Here's what we know about the marketplace and the competitive aspects, and here's how we know to win that market. So it really allows you to take from kind of all the different dimensions and let kind of data transform the way that you're doing not only sourcing for candidates, but also running your business. So we're excited. If there's no other questions, we can end here, and we're excited to talk more about it with you.
We had one more, John. If you'll hang on for one more minute, we can end with this one. If you could explain the difference between Findem and Easy Hire specifically.
Yeah, I actually think it's Hire Easy is another tool out there. The big difference with us and Hire Easy is actually the data set that you're querying on. So both of us have the ability to search and folder and do outreach in kind of multi-channel. The thing that differentiates us, frankly, in the marketplace is our founders were data engineers that created not a UI tool first, but we actually created a data set that is unique and that nobody else has been able to replicate. And again, that goes back to that 3D data. We not only take profile data and try to do search against keyword, which is really what Hire Easy does, but we actually are able to infer through this 3D data a much deeper and better matching in our profile, because we have way more data than anybody else does. And we've put it together in a way that allows the searches to be more accurate. Hire Easy is a great tool. It's got really great UI, and they're a good company. We just have a more dynamic profile and a more dynamic data set to query against. We think that AI, when you layer AI, the most important thing when you layer AI to do assistive search is the data quality is the absolutely most important thing. When you have poor data quality, you get drastic hallucinations, and it not only takes down the confidence of your recruiters doing the search because the matches don't work, but it also it really exposes your business, especially in a staffing context, if you're presenting candidates or presenting data that's not accurate. Thanks for the question.
All right. Thank you guys, the audience, for your questions. Those were fantastic. And John, thank you for your time today. As I mentioned, we will follow up with an email. The recording will be sent to you guys via email. And if you want to reach out to John, look for that email from Advanced Partners in the next day or so with his contact information, and you guys can reach out to him directly. And with that, we will close out the webinar. Thank you all for joining. Take care.
Thank you.